And let's get started here about talking about how we, American Business Systems, will help these folks today launch their business in medical billing.
We know there's lots of businesses you could be looking into. This one specifically, we think, has some real advantages. Well, as far as I know, folks, the healthcare is not going to go away. As long as there's people and people get sick and there's doctors and the doctors have to get paid by somebody. And so the insurance companies right now, and of course, Medicare itself, the government itself, is paying the doctors. Somebody has to bill so those doctors actually get paid. And that's the business we're all about.
Yeah, and Patrick, you and I both know, because we talk to our licensees quite a bit, and that's what we call our folks that become part of American Business Systems, just simply because we're not a franchise. Many of you already know that. And since we're not a franchise, it gives you the opportunity to really grow this business to the extent that you want to. But really, the crux of the matter is that we've got doctors, as we're seeing here on the screen, they're so bombarded about what's going on with all the legislation, all the troubles that they're having to make. But here at American Business Systems, what we want to do is again, talk about how we're going to help you launch your business helping doctors. And you'll see this whole portion of it laid out throughout the whole presentation today. And again, reminding everybody to go ahead and help us through the presentation today by asking us some questions. We'll be happy to do that. But Patrick, this is not a scene that is foreign to us or to our licensees. We see many doctors with their heads down trying to figure out what they're going to do next.
Yeah, and I think this will be an eye-opener to people on the webinar today if they haven't really researched this business like we have, of course, to find out that doctors are struggling right now. I mean, they're fighting to even stay in private practice. So for us to come along and say that we can actually help doctors, we know that's a big statement, but guys, we have licensees who will tell you themselves that they have salvaged doctors who are about to go out of practice or go to work for some big hospital because their revenue was not what it should be. And we solved that revenue problem for those doctors, and they get to stay in private practice. So it's a pretty cool.
You know, one of the interesting things, Patrick, we're even going to see today is an article of a consultant telling a doctor to go take out a line of credit just so that they can get through possibly this next year because of the problems that we're about to show everybody today. That's just amazing.
Yeah, it's fascinating when you think about the fact that doctors really think that their cash flow is going to be hurt so much by the introduction of these new codes that we're going to talk about on the webinar today that they've had to go out and get a line of credit. Well, let's start with this quote that you found here, Eric, from Black Book Rankings. I thought this was fascinating.
Yeah, I know we've shown this before, but again, I know that we've got a lot of new people on there today, and again, statistics are always some of the best sources for us to share this information with, because everybody always wants to know what is going to make me different out there, and why would I even want to get into this type of business. Folks, there's a company out there called Black Book Rankings, as you can see that, blackbookrankings.com. They came out with several statistics, and this is one of the most critical ones I think that we can see here, Patrick, that nearly half of all doctors out there want or hope to outsource their billing within the next 12 months. Now, people have asked, well, when did this actually come out? Well, it came out at the end or at the beginning of 2015. So this, we're right in the middle of this, and there's no doubt this is going to go through probably 2016 as well.
Yeah, so think about this statistic for a second, folks. 42%, that's almost half of all the doctors that are out there hope to outsource their billing within the next year. Talk about you hear about these windows of opportunity, Eric. That one's a pretty good window right there. It means out of a million or so doctors that are in the United States, that half a million of those practices are ready to outsource their billing. Now, why haven't they done so far? Well, that's part of why you need to research this business to find out the details about that, but it boils down to this. They don't want to do their own billing. They don't know how to do their own billing accurately and profitably and maximize their revenue. So they should outsource it just like they do everything else in their practice.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think on that note, there a lot of people are thinking, well, if the doctor does billing in their own office, then Patrick, they're probably going to save money because isn't it more expensive to outsource than it is to do it in their own in their office?
No, it's absolutely more expensive to do it in their own office. And of course, we have studies that we can give to people that show that. But here's one of the main reasons coming up here. They have claims that are sent into the insurance companies and to Medicare and Medicaid, and those claims are rejected for various reasons. So
Right.
you listed here the 5 common reasons for those claim denials. Eric, why don't you talk about that first one?
Yeah, this is interesting. A lot of times we like to talk about the reasons why people would want to even think about getting into this business. And at the early part of this year, Patrick and I did a webinar called "The Top Challenges Facing Doctors in 2015," and 5 of them we're going to talk about here just real quickly. And one of the biggest challenges that we see doctors having is patients that are scheduled to go see the doctor today. They don't know as to whether or not that person is actually their insurance is even good.
Right.
So when we're talking about eligibility, we're talking about patient isn't eligible for services or haven't shown proof of insurance. Patrick, can you imagine that out of 20 to 25 patients a doctor will see every single day, practically half of those patients, something's wrong with their proof of insurance?
Yeah, we know that from our own statistics within our own system. We can see that. But doctors complain about that all the time when they do finally sit down with some of our licensees and start looking at their revenue cycle management in detail. They realize, oh my gosh, I'm seeing patients that I'll never get paid on. And probably the patient
Right.
will never pay me either because they thought they were covered. Oh,
Right. Yeah. This is huge. And folks, if you don't know this, the whole revenue cycle management, the claims getting paid starts with making sure that that doctor's office knows that their patients are eligible with their insurance companies. That's so key.
and yet most systems out there don't do that. Ours is
No.
the rare ones that can do in real time what's called an eligibility check to make sure before they actually let the patients go back and see the doctor that they are eligible. They can do that when they set up the appointment. They can double verify that when the patient walks in the front door because things could have changed. And so that's how we solve that particular reason there for claims denials.
Yep. The second reason, as we're seeing here, Patrick, are claims are missing codes or the biller is using invalid codes. Now that's going to be the critical part coming up here in October, is that there's going to be a possibility of the billing company or even the doctor that has a biller in their office using completely invalid codes.
Oh, that's a huge possibility. In fact, that's why those doctors are told to go get a line of credit because they know that they're not going to get paid on a lot of things until they figure those codes out. The nice thing about American Business Systems is we have our system has all those codes built into it, as we'll see here illustrated in just a moment. And so we can make sure those codes are correct and that the doctor gets paid the maximum amount of money in there.
Right. And then this is interesting, Patrick, and a lot of people may not understand this fully, but let's just kind of explain this. That I think we've all been to the doctor and we've all realized that certain services that the doctor wants to do for us may not be covered by insurance. And so basically in layman's terms, what we're talking about here is what the doctor says is wrong with the patient doesn't match with what the doctor did for the patient. Just completely different codes. Patrick, I remember just about a year and a half ago, I went to the doctor and they had all the wrong codes down for me. And the nurse asked me, "So when did you have your heart attack?" I went, "What are you talking about? I didn't know I had a heart attack." "Oh, yeah, there's a code for it right here." I said, "Well, the doctor forgot to tell me about it."
Wow. So here's the amazing thing. Think about it. There's two sets of codes, actually, folks, that we're talking about here. And the doctor is putting in a code that says the patient has a sore throat, for example. And then over here it
Right.
says the code for what they did to help the patient was amputated the left leg. See, somehow those two don't match up right. And so that
Right.
you're rejected for that. That's another rejection. Our system double checks for those kinds of things and makes sure that that kind of thing doesn't happen. Again, it's all about the technology behind our system.
Exactly. Number 5 here, reason for a claim, just simply just getting denied. Now we're talking about claims that the doctor, they've got their group of patients in, they're seeing patients today. What's going to happen? Why are these claims not getting paid? The doctor staff just didn't seek what's called prior approval for even seeing the patient. And then the last one, which is the most, what I think the most one of the most saddest parts of it, is that Patrick, whenever someone types in your information or my information into that doctor's system, they inevitably have typos in there, they misspell something, and so whenever they're putting the patient's demographics or the patient's information in there, if that's wrong, that's going to not allow a claim to be paid as well. So,
Yeah.
so many little bitty things like that will
Sure.
keep a claim from getting paid.
And then when those claims do get rejected by the insurance companies and are sent back to the doctor's office, they don't have time at a doctor's office to
Right.
research why all those claims were denied. And usually they just let those go. And at the end of the year, the doctor, does a write-off, he calls it, of all the claims that didn't get paid. He would rather have that money in his bank account, though, I can assure you.
I'd like to, I know we don't have a poll here, Patrick, but I'd like to see if we can get some of the folks engaged with us this afternoon. Any of you who are out there today, just type in, did you know this information or did you not know this information about why claims are not paid by doctors? Just start putting, yeah, I knew about some of this. I didn't know about all of it. Did you not know that, some of these, that the errors and the typos, well, that alone will simply not get a claim paid. And so, yeah, we've got one from Susie. Susie says, oh, yeah, I think she must be in billing because she's actually saying, yeah, I see that quite often with the errors and the typos of the information from the patient's information into the doctor system. Susie, that's one of probably the biggest critical ones there so far. Valerie says, I only knew because of these webinars. Well, that's good to hear. Thanks so much. Beatrice says knew some of this information. So hopefully, folks, you can see here that we're trying to get you educated and really wanting to make sure that you understand if you're going to get involved in this business, why you need to get involved in this business, because this is how it's going to help you get a client eventually.
Ernestine says, yes, I did know about it. And Tim says, I knew. Okay, well, good. All right, well, let's move on here to the next point. And the point is that all those problems that you just saw can be solved if you have the right technology and the right services, which are illustrated here.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, if you haven't seen a demonstration of the system, all 5 of those reasons why a claim would actually get denied, we can show you each one of those and show you how it's going to be resolved, or there's a solution in iClaim or EMRX that will actually fix those problems there. So we would love to be able to show that demonstration for you. So just get in touch with us, and we'll certainly get that set up for you if you haven't seen one yet.
Now, I think Eric said this earlier, but I'm going to re-emphasize for those of you who are brand new to our webinar that this is a cloud-based system. It's not software that resides on your computer or on the doctor's computer. It's totally cloud-based, which means it's up in the cloud, magically floating around up there somewhere. It's on our servers, basically. So all you do is basically go to any computer in the world that's connected to the internet, open up a browser, go to our software site where you log in. You'll have a login. Boom! You're actually using the software just like you do many softwares nowadays, right over the cloud. Pretty cool stuff.
And Patrick, really, I think one of the advantages, I know we're not going to talk too much about the advantages just yet, but there's no need for upgrades. When there's a need for an upgrade, that gets automatically done. So that's a huge thing for you. Patrick, you and I are always talking about, you know, they folks need to know about this information, not just from us, but from everybody else, third-party associates that we deal with, and some of these quotes that we're going to be talking about here come directly from other sources. But one of the next things that the issues that have a heavy burden on doctors today are copays and deductibles. We've been talking a lot about just processing the claim, and that's going to get paid from the insurance company. But a lot of times we don't recognize how much money's lost just by the front office not collecting copays and deductibles. I'm just amazed by that.
Oh, it's sometimes thousands of dollars that are written off by doctors because they didn't collect that from the patient side. And when the Affordable Care Act kicked in a couple of years ago, all of a sudden doctors were finding that even created an extra burden for them because of all the rules and regulations that are involved in that. So this kind of ties in with Dev's question. He says, I plan to come to training early next year. Will I miss the boat as far as the timing of the opportunity? No, Dev, the Affordable Care Act will be around for a long, long time. And so will all these issues that have to do with the codes. Even though they're just being introduced here in October of this year, the doctors will be trying to make sure that they're getting paid the way they should for probably the next 2 or 3 years.
Interesting, Dev. That's a great question to ask. That you may not be able to. And Patrick, I don't know if a lot of people know about this. That you don't have to wait to come to training to actually get started. We've had a lot of people get started and then come to training another month or two down the road. But you don't have to miss the boat here, even with what's happening here coming in October. So if there's some things, Deb, that you want to talk with one of your business coaches, talk to them about that. But as we go on here, Patrick, even the AMA warns that physicians will get stuck with bills from patients who take advantage of medical services during this time, but then fail to pay their premiums. Now, this whole Affordable Care Act, I don't know if everybody understands how that really works. But, anybody can go out there and go get insurance. They can put down their money and then say, okay, I've got health insurance now. I think the best way to think about it is that I think when all of us were at one point growing up and we didn't have a lot of money at one point, we would just make sure that we got liability insurance for at least a month and we got our card.
Right.
So we may not make the next month's payment on it, but we'd say that we've got it.
Yep.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about.
Good example here, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening here, is that a lot of people will go out there, they'll get their health insurance so that they can say that they've got health insurance. They'll even show that to the doctor, but they may miss their own next month's payment. So now when the doctor goes and makes that payment or that claim on that, comes to find out that patient never paid their premium again.
This is why the online eligibility is so important. If a doctor has an old technology that doesn't do that in real time like ours does, they're going to be losing out on a lot of money there.
I've literally had doctors ask me, Patrick, whenever I do a demo for some doctors, I've actually had them ask me, can it check for this? And I said, yes, it can. And that's what Patrick's talking about. But one way to help with these copays and deductibles is this service that Patrick's showing you on the screen. It's called ChoicePay. Patrick, talk a little bit about what ChoicePay and how this works for the doctor.
Well, all it means is that we give the patients a choice. The doctors now just say, pay up front here. Let's say that the patient's portion of the bill is $200. Well, if the patient doesn't have that available right now to them credit-wise or in their checking account, they can't make that upfront payment. They need an alternative way to pay, and we have ways through technology that allows them to pay whatever decided by them and the doctor per month, so they can pay out that balance to the doctor. That's what ChoicePay is. It's an online system that allows the doctor to manage those payments from the patients and make sure they get, all of it paid eventually.
Exactly. And so, folks, this is one of these services here that can actually make that doctor's office run just a little bit smoother. And remember, every penny that you help collect for that doctor is a percentage of what you can help that you'll be able to charge for those services. So make sure that you understand that. Now, Deb, you're asking a question about the fees that the doctors have to pay to sign up for our services. That's actually, you can find that on our virtual brochure. Just keep going through that virtual brochure and you'll see those. And so just make sure you just get back to that and you'll see all those fees there. So Patrick, we just talked about copays, deductibles. Now, what about these administrative burdens? Some of these quotes are coming from actual doctors, and this was amazing. He says, I can't stay in it. Patient care has almost gotten in the way of documentation and charting. I
Wow.
hope everybody lets that sink in. Just let that sink in.
That is an amazing quote, Eric. I've never seen that quote. Uh, Imagine that doctors now have to uh, think in terms of I've got to do all the administrative stuff, the documentation, the charting, and the billing. And what they'd rather be doing, of course, is seeing patients. That's what they were trained to do. That's what they're good at. That's what they love doing. Uh, I used to watch that TV show that was on TV about a doctor. House was the name of it, and
Right.
he was not a very nice guy, but man, he loved helping figure out what was wrong with patients. Well, that's where most doctors are in their thinking. Most people think that doctors got into it because there's big money to be made. Nowadays, that money is shrinking more and more. The doctors better be
Right.
in it for the love of seeing patients get well because they're not in it for the money, believe me.
Yeah, this is just amazing, and this kind of goes to help answer some questions. Well, can a doctor's office just do their own billing? They can, but I mean, it's more than what you think. And if you continue to see what Dr. Murphy says here, he says that's what's driving a lot of physicians to sell their practice. On average, you're seeing 25% sustained productivity losses around the country.
Wow.
Uh, these are staggering numbers if you think about it. As Patrick just said, doctors went to school to learn how to help you get better, feel better, have a more successful life in and of yourself. But when the doctors get burdened down with these issues, your health care drops. Think about that. Truly think about that. Your health care drops because your doctor has to deal with these things. Now, if again, as a medical billing company, you're literally able to go in there, help this doctor with these administrative burdens, all the ones that you're about to see here. Again, some of these other solutions through what we can offer you through ABS.
Yeah, because folks, if you've been on our website and you've read a little bit about this or gone through our virtual brochure, you know that each one of these has to do a solution for some aspect of the medical revenue cycle within a doctor's office. So every one
Mm-hmm.
of them ties directly in with getting every penny that's due that practice so that they can continue to grow, add personnel, buy new equipment, go to seminars and things like that to learn more about how to take care of patients. So we have all the solutions. And if you're just doing medical billing nowadays, believe me, you're not going to be in business long because doctors are looking for a total solution, one
Right.
stop shopping for all of their revenue cycle needs. And American Business Systems is one of the rare companies out there that have put all this together in one package for you.
There you go. I mean, every aspect of it. Now, here's some interesting information. And again, I think Adam showed this to us not too long ago, Patrick. I mean, this was just last month. My goodness, we're almost going to be into August already. But just last month in June, everybody can see that down at the lower left-hand corner. You notice that we look for lots of informations about different things here. And in medical economics, it shows here that physicians are just not ready for ICD-10 come October the 1st. This is the big thing that we're talking about here on the webinar today. And pretty much for the rest of this webinar, this is what we're going to be talking about right here.
And when they see through the live demo that we do for your prospective doctors, We get online, we, American Business Systems, and do the demonstration of our system and show them all the ways it can solve these problems. They are blown away to find out that they don't have to get ready for ICD-10 other than just get on our system. It just blows their mind.
And Patrick, this is just going to be one of a couple that we're actually going to be showing you. But listen to this from medical economics. More than 84% of physicians surveyed by medical economics said that their practices are doing the same or worse financially than a year ago, according to the medical economics physicians practice survey.
That is such good news for us. Bad news for the doctors, but boy, it's good news for us.
Yeah, I mean, our business continues to keep rising in a good way, but what the doctors are finding is that these rising operational costs. Now, we're not talking about operations. We're talking about their business, their operations of their business. Patrick, it's amazing that this is coupled with this, with the reduced amount of reimbursements that the doctors are getting. This is just compounding up on each other. So no wonder, as we saw Dr. Murphy earlier saying, that there's a lot of doctors just selling and getting out completely.
Yeah. So 84% said their practices were doing the same or worse financially than a year ago. That's not good news for the doctors. But the good news is that you can come in and help them with those costs. And then it goes on to say in a more recent survey, nearly 70% of physicians said the transition to EHRs, that's electronic health records, was not worth it. And they would not purchase their systems again because of poor functionality and higher costs. Eric, when doctors see our system, if they've been using another electronic health record system, when they see EMRX,
yes,
they just cannot even. It's such a comparison to what they've got now that they just literally, you hear them on the demos, you can hear them actually saying in the background, wow, did you see that? Wow. I wish the system did that, So.
I think, and I think you're going to be talking with this in one of our licensees here recently that just signed up 40 doctors
38.
On our
38.
38 doctors on our EHR system that was with a completely different type of EHR system. So folks, a lot of you that have questions to whether what happens if a doctor's already on an EMR system, then you might want to talk to this licensee a little bit later on, because it's the simplicity of the system, the lower cost of the system, and the doctor's not having to worry about all of the upgrades or the keeping up with everything. It's a completely simple solution for these doctors called EMRX.
Hey, I'm going to try to get that licensee. His name is Terrence. I'm going to try to get him on an interview next week. So we'll see if I can put that together. But he's very busy, as you can understand right now. But he may take time out to be on a webinar and let people ask him some questions about that. So ICD-10, here it is. Man, it's coming up fast. Let's see, is this almost August 1st?
Almost August 1st. I think last count I saw was 65 days away.
Yeah.
So we're literally within, for us, we're within one training class before this thing kicks off. Now, our second class that is after this one, it's going to be doing it right in the middle of it. And so, folks, again, like Dev asked, am I going to be too late? No, you're not going to be too late. However, with everything, it's always good to be on the front end other than on the back end. But there's still going to be a lot of work that needs to be done. So let's talk about this ICD-10, Patrick. First of all, tell us what ICD-10, what does ICD mean even in the first place? What are we talking about here?
This is the international classification of diseases that the World Health Organization came up with to classify all the things that can go wrong with a human being. All of them are numbered in some way. Right now, there's only about 16,000 of these codes. Come October 1st, that will be 8 or 9 times that many codes for the doctors to deal with, because they've broken those codes down into little bitty things that you would never even believe if I told you. One of them, Eric, was hurt by a flying turtle. Really, that's a code that's now out there in the ICD-10 codes. So anyway, the point is that the rest of the world has been on ICD-10 codes now for some time. America is just now moving towards that, and it's going to be a huge change for the doctors to deal with. And like this quote says here from Joshua Berman, Director of Business Analytics at Relay Health Financial, he says, I guarantee that there will be one large payer or a few smaller payers, that's the insurance companies, that won't be ready to process the ICD-10 claims on October 1st. Can you imagine that, Eric, that these insurance companies, knowing for the last, 3 years at least, that these codes were coming,
Right.
they're not ready for
Yeah,
it?
and that's amazing that we're not talking about doctors. We're talking about the insurance
Payers.
companies
Right.
themselves. Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Now,
So this could be a big train wreck if we don't watch out for it.
yeah, you found this article, which I thought was really amazing and hilarious almost in some way. Just came out, a few days ago here in Healthcare IT News. ICD-10's 5 stages of grief. And they list each
Yeah.
one here, Eric. And let's just talk briefly about each one of those because this is the stages
Yeah.
of grief that doctors have gone through and maybe still are going through to get to those new codes.
Yeah, exactly. This is almost it's sad enough to be comical, but it is comical, but it is real.
Yeah.
And one of these stages is that the doctors they're just in denial, and they're going, ICD what?
Right.
Excuse me, I have patients.
Right. They don't
Yeah.
even think about it. And then they go
Right.
to anger.
Yeah,
I don't have time. Oh, are you going to be the doctor? Go ahead.
No. Look at this. Why would anybody ever need a code for an animal rider injured in collision with a streetcar?
That's one of the codes. Yeah.
That's one of the codes.
Hey, I like this one too. I found this one online. New code is injured by fires whilst water skiing.
Yep.
I
That's
guess
going pretty fast on
you're
water
going
skiing.
so fast that your water skis catch fire. I'm not sure. Then they move to bargaining. Some doctors say, "Oh, there's still hope. Physician groups are taking the hill by storm, and I'm confident they'll be successful because they're just as frustrated as I am." Another year of ICD-9. No, that has been locked in. It's October 1st of this year. It's not going to be pushed out at all.
Yeah. And then you've got depression. When the doctors just kind of figured out, you know what, this thing's going to happen.
Yeah.
The system is no longer about the patients. I can't possibly manage the thousands of new codes, as it says there. That's whenever you saw Dr. Murphy saying, I cannot believe I'm saying this, that, the patients are getting away from me doing my paperwork and the CHR stuff. And then finally, the acceptance portion of it. While some of these codes are just observed, I do believe it's important we capture the type of care being given correctly at the point of care. For instance, asthma codes are updated from an ancient whatever mumbo jumbo to more appropriate terminology according with all these guidelines. So you can see here the frustration, and this was written by a doctor talking about what she's finding out with these issues that she's going on through with her own colleagues. And folks, again, this is just written, as you can see here, just 8 days ago. And this one here, even though it was just back in April, Patrick, this is unbelievable. This is absolutely unbelievable. I'm going to let you kind of discuss this and let people understand. Now, they can go out to CNBC, see this out there, type in, could a new code system hurt your doctor's practice? Go read it. You can listen to this. This is actually a video, but we pulled out some of the clips here. Dr. Andrew Kleinman. Patrick, take it away, sir.
Yeah, so he says for the healthcare industry, these codes is a technology changeover on par with the so-called Y2K system upgrades in the late 1990s. You remember that Y2K, the turn of the century? Everybody thought all the computers were going to crash because the date codes were wrong or something like that. And he says this is that major. The concern is that this upgrade won't go as nearly as smoothly as the Y2K transition. So
this is the one that really gets us right here. If we'll click that, maybe if you'll click it on your side, that it'll populate those lines there. So But there you go. Now, this doctor was just told by a consultant to go get a line of credit to cover at least 3 months of income because you might not get paid if you don't do things 100% correctly.
Boy, that if I were a doctor, I would be scared because imagine what 3 months income revenue for a doctor is in his practice. Some of them are 50, 60, $75,000 a month, and they need three
Yeah.
months of that on hand, he says. Wow.
Yeah, so imagine just to keep your business running, you're probably going to need at least 6 figures of a line of credit
Yeah.
just to make it through. Now, folks, we say, Patrick and I will say today, pretty equivocally here, that that doesn't need to happen. Because right now, if once you get involved in our system, you can literally start doing these mapping of these codes for the doctor. Doesn't cost you anything. If you want to charge the doctor a little bit just for your services, you can so do that. But Patrick, this is how good our system's working, and it's been working like this. It was ready to go October of last year.
Yeah, so doctors and you, of course, can literally type in the ICD-9 code, the existing codes, and it will populate that and show it to you. But you can also type in the ICD-10 codes and see all the different codes that would come up with for that in our system as well. So it's called ICD-9 to ICD-10 mapping, and every doctor will go really bananas when they see that this is built into our system because now they don't have to prepare, they don't have to memorize, they don't have to redo things, they don't have to go to courses and study about it. It's all done for them inside of our system.
Matter of fact, if the doctors are using our EMR system, we can certainly show them how it's going to actually code it properly for them anyway. I see that Stephanie Hill is on here. Good to have her on here today. I actually showed this to her last week again, and she goes, I didn't realize that the system actually coded everything for the doctor, and I said it does. So again, let me reiterate to everybody that if you'd like to see our system, we'll be happy to show that to you. If you don't, and you haven't done that, you need to take advantage of us letting us show you that because we'll be happy to do that. Now, if the doctor doesn't have an EMR system, we know that not all doctors have an EMR system, Patrick. We do have services that can help them implement these codes properly. Both of these services, AuditGuard and CodeWrite, can actually help them do that.
Yeah, so here's two more services that you, as an ABS licensee, can offer to the practices that will help them with those codes. One of them is AuditGuard, which goes in and looks carefully at the current codes that the doctor has been coding and makes sure that he's not been over coding because he can be fined for that by Medicare. CodeWrite, we have on staff over 200 certified medical coders who can actually perform the service for you in that practice to look at the codes and make sure that the doctor is using the correct codes. We come back with reports like you see here illustrated on the screen, showing the doctor what they could be billing and what they should be billing to make sure that they are maximizing their revenue and yet not going to get in trouble with Medicare. So they're tremendous services, guys. I wish we could go into detail with them. You don't do any of the work. Remember, that's something that you outsource that to our medical coders, and they do that for you. Meanwhile, you're charging the doctor a fee for that you make a big portion of. So that's basically how that.
Absolutely. Yeah, and so again, folks, remember that even if the doctors have their own EMR system or they need help making this transition from ICD-9s to ICD-10s, one of the things that you could literally get from them are all their current codes that they're currently using of their ICD-9s. We can actually show you how to do that by inputting it into our system, kick that out, or if you want to get this over to our coders, they will take that piece of paper, which is called like an encounter form or what's called a super bill, and get all of those changed over for the ICD-10 changeover here. Now, Patrick, real quickly, I know we've heard a lot of different things about ICD-9 and ICD-10, the whole changeover. We know that some doctors won't get paid, but I think the last that we heard from the Center of Medicare and Medicaid Services is that they're going to be somewhat lenient, but they better be using these new codes. Is that correct? Is that your understanding?
Yes, that's right. In other words, they're not going to be as strict as they could be initially, probably for the first, 2 or 3 months, but they're wanting the doctors to get with the program and start sending in the correct codes, or they will start denying those claims.
And the reason we share that with you is because those that are on here, you're thinking, well, what if I can't get to this training coming up here in August? Or what if I can't even make the one in October or the one September, October? Am I going to be too late? Again, like Deb has said, you're really not, because this is going to be an ongoing problem. I just forecast it being at least 6 months to a year.
And here's the
But
amazing
if
thing,
you,
Eric. Oh, by the way, here's a doctor who's, as you can see, he's very happy. Thank you for helping me. That's because the services that you're going to be able to offer as an ABS licensee are so unusual. Some of them the doctors have never even heard of. They didn't even know they were available. And you're going to bring them
right,
to the doctors in your community. It will make them very happy. So, Eric, let me just pause just for a second so we can talk in
yeah,
depth here about the fact that a lot of people who are getting into this business may not realize that this is one of those businesses that will be around a long time. When my wife and I started doing medical billing back in the late 80s, I think it was 1987, she started doing billing. We didn't realize that this would grow as fast as it's grown as far as being a business where people are doing
right,
billing for doctors. And it seems like, Eric, every year there was something that would come along that was another one of those things like we're talking about today, that was a deadline, a window of opportunity. Every year there was something. The first year, of course, it was the fact that doctors were on paper still back then. We were filing
right.
claims on paper. And then there was the electronic claims that were coming along. And the government said, now you've got to be filing on electronic claims by a certain date, or you're going to be in trouble and we're not going to pay. Well, that date came and went, and they reset the data 2 or 3 times, and finally they were supposedly, this is it. We're not going to pay unless it's on. And now some payers, won't pay unless it's sent to them electronically.
Right.
But Medicare is still paying. We see that all the time. Licensees are still finding doctors that are filing on paper. So,
On paper.
like it's a drop dead deadline. But the point was that we were always looking at something, it seemed like, Eric, that would keep us always in business. There would always be a need for, outsourcing to us.
Yeah, we know right now. I mean, Patrick, I think it was what 4 or 5 years ago. It was the electronic medical record system in and of itself, the EMR system,
Right.
that people were saying, what, this is the problem. And, oh my goodness, what's going to happen when everybody gets on the EMR system, and we won't have anything to give them. Well, that has literally come and gone,
Right.
and now we're still seeing that our licensees are still seeing where they're getting these doctors signed up on our EMR system, which is the electronic medical record system.
And then about
And
four
that's
years ago, you remember, Eric, that about 4 years ago, the Affordable Care Act was coming down the pike, and everybody
right.
thought, oh my goodness, well, when that comes, I guess the government's going to take over, the billing, and there'll be a single payer system, and there won't be any need for medical billers. But that has not even turned out to be true. You and I did some research and found that in uh, Canada, they are
Right.
supposedly and have been for years a single payer system. And in reality, there's over a dozen entities that have to be billed. So medical billing as a business up there in Canada is a booming business right now, even though it's single payer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they've got a medical billing schools up there. It's flat out amazing. So this ICD-10 is a window of opportunity. Patrick, you kind of put it to where it's called disruption. From an entrepreneur mentality, we're always looking for disruptions in the market, because that's what helps us as entrepreneurs to kind of keep pushing that envelope a little bit further and further out. So uh, believe me, folks, that this is really it's going to continue to keep getting better and better and better for us as we keep going. Patrick, a couple of people said, hey, just had to, Valerie said she had to drop off because of some work issues that she's doing, but she goes, always an interesting webinar. So, folks, again, we want to make sure that we're getting the information out to you that you certainly need to know about. Patrick, you got any last minute things here? And as Patrick's pulling this information up, folks, again, give us some information here about some more questions that you'd like for us to ask or answer, and we'll be happy to do that for you.
Well, just to kind of summarize, Eric, I think if people don't understand that we are much more than just medical billing, we
Right.
certify people as certified medical revenue managers. And that means that you're managing the entire revenue cycle of a medical practice, which is much bigger than just medical billing. So don't be fooled by companies who can say that they can teach you how to do medical billing and you can go to work instantly doing billing for doctors. Most of those companies on the internet are training people so they can go out and find a job in a doctor's office. Those jobs are going away because the doctors are outsourcing more and more their billing. So that's not a good way to go. I was going to also put up here our guarantee, Eric, because as you know, I'm a big stickler about making sure that people are not risking anything. So let me see if I can get that back up on the screen. I have to push a couple of buttons to do that. Yeah, there we go.
You got it.
We're the only company that I know of, Eric, that does this. And you remember back when I first came up with this, you thought I was crazy, and so did most of the other people in our company. But I said, look, let's just let people go through our entire week of training here in Dallas, all 5 days. And at the end of the week, if for any reason they simply just do not think this is the right business for them, they can ask for their money back and we'll give them every penny back. And now we've only done that about 3 times in our entire history. But the point is that, folks, it's the most risk-free way for you to invest in any business. Imagine, assuming that you don't have any miles that you have to pay for your flight down here, that might be $400 or $500, depending on when you get the flight. Your hotel stay will run around $700 with taxes. So you're under $1,500 for sure to come down here and see if this is right for you. Eric, I don't know of any business that has this potential that's a $25,000 investment that you can say, oh, I think I'll go down there and spend the week and a few dollars and see if these guys are, just full of bull,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the good thing about it, folks, is that, we're risking, as much as maybe what you think you might be risking, because certainly we want to have you as part of our business and grow with you. But we know that we may not be a fit for everybody. So again, Patrick's been gracious enough to put that out there. And again, I can't think of any other business out there that lets you come sit through an entire week to learn. As you can see, all of these people going through here, learning from us here at ABS. You're learning from other American Business Systems licensees. You're going to be talking with our support team there at the training workshop. You're going to get all the material that you would be able to see there, and then still be able to ask for your money back. As Patrick, you and I were talking, I think, right before the webinar today, we talked about how many seats are left. And I think the last time we looked, we had 16 of those 20 seats filled. So I think we've got about 4 seats left open there. So
right.
We certainly would like to see if we can get those filled with folks that are on the webinar today.
Yeah, and then folks, if you are still doing your due diligence on us and on the business in general, or just looking at other businesses, we understand. We do these trainings on a regular basis every 6 or 7 weeks. It depends on whether there's holidays and that type of thing. But Eric, I only think we have 3 more after this training this year, right? I think we skipped 1 month in there.
Whenever we talked about that the other day, I was shocked.
Yeah, I know.
I know we only do, I think, 9 workshops a year, but my goodness, it's just amazing how quickly the time goes by.
Yeah, so if you're still looking at things, it's okay. Just continue coming to our webinars here. These are held every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Central Time, and you're welcome to come to all of these, ask all the questions you want, and find out if this is something for real. The more you look at it, I think the more you'll find that it is real and that it has the potential that you're looking for in a home business. But you'll only know if you come down here to the workshop and find that out.
Exactly. And as Patrick said, we're hopefully going to be interviewing one of our licensees next week. So if you are still doing a little bit of due diligence and you want to hear from someone that has again, been on your side of this side of the webinar, gone through this training workshop, gone out there, built his business, or maybe even her business, whichever one we get for next week. That's going to be a great opportunity. The interviews are just awesome, Patrick.
Yeah, and by the way, for those of you who are still on here, we got 3 minutes. I'm going to show you here live on the internet, on the interweb.
On the internet?
I'm going to show you live
On the
interwebs right here on our website. Let's see if it's coming up here. Let me look at my monitor here on my laptop. It should be coming up any second. I don't. Yes, there it is.
There you go.
Okay, so if you want to watch some existing interviews with licensees, just go up here where it says news. You see it here at the top. Then blog. Our blog is where we post all of those interviews. And in fact, there's probably 1 or 2 here on this page. If I scroll down a little bit, you probably will see an interview or 2 there. Yeah, there's one that you did, Eric, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago with Celine, who built a tremendous business. And folks, as you go down this page, you'll continue to see testimonials from people who've come to our training, webinars by Dr. Vicki Ratner, who is on our advisory board. And then you'll continue to see more and more stuff. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff. And then back down at the very bottom, don't miss that there's a little link down there, kind of almost invisible. See it down there at the bottom, older articles. That will go to a previous page where there's some more. And then you go back to the bottom of that one to older articles. And you'll go back to, what did we say, Eric? This goes back to like 2010 or something.
Oh, I think so. My goodness. Probably when you and I had black hair.
Oh, yours is not near where mine's at already. Well, anyway, thought I'd just show that to you there, folks. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, again, thank you for joining us this afternoon. You can see that we do have a lot of fun here, and be sure to go out to our website. You can see a lot of the archived webinars that we've done. Patrick, thank you for taking your time and being on here with us this afternoon.